Hello everyone! Today in this hopefully short and informative video, I'm going to show you how I make my paper cartridges for Sharp's percussion rifles and carbines. And two quick disclaimers: I'm doing this as a one take, so what happens happens. And I'm also using, as with my other previous cartridge making videos, a fake bullet and fake powder, just for demonstration purposes. But it's going to work with the real stuff just as well. So in front you can see everything that I'm using to assemble my cartridges. And I'm just going to walk you through these pieces. Of course, I'm using a cutting template for the outer wrapper. The dimensions of the template you can see right here. And this is the bullet diameter that I'm using. You're going to need a circle cutter. This one is a 13mm circle cutter, although it's labeled 1/2 inch. It doesn't matter if it's 1/2 inch or 13mm, just get one. You're going to need one. 1/2 inch is okay. Then of course you're going to need paper for the outer wrapper. I'm using a 30 or 40 GSM paper, as I found out that this leaves mostly no residue in the chamber, if at all. So I don't recommend using printer paper or anything else, or anything thicker than 40 GSM for your cartridges or for your cartridge body. You're going to need a 13mm paper circle cut with the cutter. This one is made out of paper gauze from tea filters, but you can also use 30 GSM paper if you can find it. It needs to be thin so that the spark from the percussion cap can penetrate through it into the powder charge. And you're also going to need, cut with the 13mm circle cutter, this time out of milk carton, a piece of paper to compress the powder. Then you're going to need a mandrel. This one is bullet diameter, so 0.542. You're also going to need a forming tool for the mandrel. What this exactly does, I'm going to show you in a bit. Then of course you're going to need a bullet. This bullet design I've made myself. It's based on a historical bullet the Union used, but it's slightly modified. You're also going to need powder, obviously. These are 80 grains of powder. Of course, you can also use the historical 60 grains, but then you need to fill the rest of space, or the rest of the space up that's left in your paper cartridge with like semolina or something like that. You're also going to need a glue stick. Brand doesn't matter. And these two tools are totally optional. You can replace them, you can leave them out. I use them. So this is a crimping tool. It has a groove or a protrusion right here and also right here. I hope you can see that. And what this does, I'm also going to show you in a bit. And this is a chamber gauge. This one is made to the chamber dimensions of the Percussion, Sharp's Berdan and infantry rifle. Both these guns have the same chamber dimensions. And again, this gauge is made to these dimensions so that when you have an assembled cartridge, you can just put it in here and you're going to know if the cartridge you made will fit your gun or not. Of course, if you have another brand than Percussion, you're going to need to measure your chamber and make one to your dimensions. But of course, if you have a gun right next to you, you can of course just try it directly in the gun or just leave it out. Now for assembly. You're gonna need your outer wrapper. And here I suggest, if you have problems with inserting the bullet, make a new template or just manually cut off this edge of your wrapper. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. Cut off this edge. This will make it easier to insert. So I'm going to use this one, as the 3D printed bullets tend to have issues with insertion, but lead usually works just fine. So again, you take your wrapper and your mandrel, and also your glue stick. And you take your glue stick and apply a gentle or little amount of glue on this edge right here. Again, not much. You don't want the paper to be residue in your chamber. And then you're going to align your mandrel and roll up your cartridge. Make sure to roll tightly. Then twist it 1 or 2 times. And then you're done with your outer wrapper. Now you see you have this edge protruding over the mandrel. What you're going to do now is take your finger and just roll over the edge, like so. And the end product should look like this. What you're going to do now is take your glue stick again and just put a little bit of glue on the end. Not much, just a little bit. If it was too much, you can take your finger, scrape off a bit. Now this part is glued. Then you're going to take your piece of paper gauze and put it roughly in the center and gently press it on. Then you take your forming tool and press it in there, or on the end of the cartridge. You can twist it a little bit, and voila, your cartridge now has a base. And this base is thin enough to be penetrated by the spark of the percussion cap. Now usually I would set these aside to dry for about half an hour, but we're just going to continue. Now you withdraw your mandrel, take your powder tube, or your tube in general, and fill it with powder. Put in your 80 grains, or 60, or 70, or 40, whatever. Just make sure you fill up the empty space. And now it looks like this. Then you're going to take your carton disc, place it over the top, make sure that it's going in right away, yeah, so that you have no powder on top of it. And then take your mandrel and gently, without crushing the powder, tapping it a few times to compress it and settle all the powder nicely. So now it looks like this. Now you're taking your bullet and apply a gentle amount of glue on the thick heel. Again, not much, just a little bit, just that it will stick to the paper. You can take your fingers and twist the bullet 1 or 2 times to spread the glue out, and then just insert your bullet into the wrapper. And now make sure that the edge, the upper edge of the outer wrapper goes to the first driving band. If it does, take your fingers and roll the cartridge in your fingers a bit to press the paper onto the side walls of the bullet, like that. And in theory, you could leave it at that, but what I'm going to do is take my crimping tool, open it up, and align this piece where the paper is already a little bit crumbled, and put it in right onto this protrusion. Now put it down, press it in once, take the cartridge out, turn it 90 degrees, press it twice, and now you're done. What this does is, first off, your bullet, even if the glue doesn't stay, the crimping will more or less keep it in place. And I also think it really looks nice. So last step is to insert your bullet or your cartridge into the chamber gauge, and it fits. It's flush, pretty much flush. Yeah. So this will certainly work in a Pedersoli Sharps Berdan or Sharps Infantry. Now, at last, a lot of these tools you see here are 3D printed. If you have a 3D printer, it definitely makes life easier. If you want any of the files for the mandrel or the drawing for the bullet, so you can have a custom mold made for you, or for the crimping tool, for the chamber gauge, or whatever, I will put the link to my website in the video description, and there you can either write me an email or you can join the Discord server that is linked on my website and just ask me for the files there. But of course you can also design them yourself, and especially with the chamber gauge, remember, make them to the spec of your rifle, and yeah, just not use this one if you don't have a Pedersoli, Berdan or infantry model. So with that, I would be at the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like, or if you have questions or just want to comment anything, feel free to comment.